Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video diving into screenshots I took from the third gameplay stream covering Eldritch Realms, which is the fourth expansion for Age of Wonders 4. We're also going to cover two other things that got posted this week. We got to see the Dev Diary 32 covering the art of the Eldritch Realms, and Dev Diary 33 is just this giant document full of all the changes that we're getting in the free update called the Mystic Update that's coming out alongside Eldritch Realms. Just like I've done with the previous streams, I went through and took screenshots of all these things that you'll be able to see over on the official forums. I'll try and put timestamps in there at some point, but I do have a pretty busy day ahead of me, so I may not get around to that for a while. And a lot of the numbers that we're going to be looking at may change at some point in the future. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump over to the things from the stream because I think that's stuff that a lot of people will be interested in seeing right at the beginning. So right here, they actually showed off a little bit about the Umbral Thralls and um, their lore in game by going into this tab. It looks like there was something written about them at one point about them being ruled over by a benevolent hive mind, which reminds me a lot of the kir'ko in Age of Wonders Planetfall. They were ruled by a hive mind, and then they were freed from a hive mind by the syndicate, um, only to then be like forced to work for the syndicate. And then eventually they fought for their freedom, and they had the choice to become like benevolent or evil at that point. So I'm curious if this is tied to that, or if it's just something related to Shadow Realm. I don't really remember much about Shadow Realm. A lot of people that I've talked to before have told me that kir'ko are very, very close to what we saw with the shadow demons in Age of Wonders 2, I believe. Now, at some point, they did show off this spirit summon dormant, which I don't remember seeing at any point. It's something that you don't get immediately, and it's in the support tree with like defensive training and those cool things. It says that this ability transforms into a spirit summon on the affinity of the last spell cast by their side. So you can say, I would like a lesser stone spirit or a lesser magma spirit based off of what I see my enemy has. That summon will have a turn cooldown, and I'm not seeing anything about this being a once in a combat ability, but I would assume, like most summons, that it would be there is no cooldown on this guy. It's just once a battle. Tentacled escape, I don't think they showed off, but they did hover over it towards the end of the stream. This says that when the unit dies, they escape to the void and return at the end of combat as if the side is victorious, if it is on the side that is victorious. So it's basically resurgence that is slightly better. You can get 50% of your HP back instead of, I think it's maybe 20% from resurgence. They did show off one or two things about the cleansing flame that wasn't in the dev diary before this one, before the one that went over the art direction. They didn't show off that you can basically do this ability on the left. This is a spell, right? A buff spell that makes it so a target unit gains zeal, and enemy units near that unit will be condemned, and it will create cleansing flame on the target hexes for 3 turns. So on the target hex, so that'd be where your friendly unit is, I believe. Underneath that, we have something that I believe we may have seen a little bit about, but I put in here and I was like, oh, yeah, I don't need that. The Temple of the Pyre is, I believe, something that wasn't in the dev diary. This says basically that you're going to be able to inflict condemned across the enemy forces at the very beginning of the fight, and that those effects usually last 3 turns, I believe. So that can allow you to make it easier to apply status effects to your enemies at the beginning of a fight, or like get some benefits from things like zeal. You can just reapply condemn to get it to stick on them for longer too if it's about to disappear. Consecrating Firestorm is a world spell. It's kind of like the terraforming flash freeze. It can hit everything in a province as long as it's not targeting a friendly province, and it's something that doesn't have an ancient wonder. It'll also destroy any province improvements that are there. So I think that wouldn't work on a Spelljammer, but I wish it would. I wish you could just like destroy a Spelljammer with this kind of interaction, because I think that would make a lot of sense. Spelljammers are kind of silly and just break the game in a way that makes it so it never ends. If you're able to defend forever because your enemy can't cast spells, then it's just a stalemate. A better single target pole arm is out there than the new Templar. They were saying that this one is really good at fighting hordes of enemies because its primary attack is a one hex cone, and its secondary ability is entering defense mode while also creating cleansing flames on this and adjacent hexes. So it's a really good way to just get the thing that removes debuffs on your allies and buffs from your enemies. I know there's a few more in here that we haven't talked about, like, yeah, Flame Blessed Champions gives you Flame Herald's Consecration, and that basically makes it so all Burning Ground becomes Cleansing Flames. That's pretty good, but it also makes it so slain enemies create Cleansing Flames. I think that is pretty big. That seems like that's a good way to just kind of create these places for your units to go heal up in, or I guess they don't heal HP, but they remove stuff, so it's helpful. What do we have in here about burning? Yeah, it's if you attack, you can get 5 stacks of burning before it creates cleansing flames, which is interesting because I thought burning on the ground just becomes cleansing flames. But I think for melee, they made it so it works a bit like the primals and the way they build up charges on their attacks to get to certain special abilities. Now, there is this building that gives +1 rank associated with this new tome. I don't believe they've talked about this yet or shown anything else like this, and I'm curious when we go over to the dev diary here if we can find anything that talks about buildings that just add ranks. Well, there's 26 stuff in here, so we'll get to that more when we are done talking about the stuff from the stream. But yeah, without further ado, let's move on to this. There was a really good comment about how we got basically a was it a flame daddy over here and an umbral mommy from the other tome so that they can fight each other. They're opposites. And then the story realm that they started towards the end of the stream has this cool affinity option. It was based off the fact that they get order, they can get extra retaliation. There was one of these options gave like enough experience to level up, and I think the other one made your tier 1 units stronger. So if you wanted to take those generic ones, everybody's going to have access to that. But there is a cool little affinity thing that can make it easier to roleplay in these story realms, which sounds pretty fun to do. I'm excited to check them out. This name of the character on this realm sounds like zwen'tywan in their minds. They are probably pronouncing it a little bit differently than was intended, but I think that's a T. Yeah, Z-Wen T1. zwen'tywan. I love that name. 71. There was a beetle in the layer of silk, which is interesting because it used to just be these spiders, and that makes sense, layer of silk. But now it's another animal unit that you have to be aware of. They work slightly differently than the spiders. I think they're melee, but they have the pestilent escape ability. So even though they're tier 1, I think they should be able to maneuver quite a bit towards your backline and cause some problem for ranged units. They said something in one of the dev diaries about wanting to add more dwellings in the future with giants and ogres. I feel like I did highlight that, but I wanted to highlight it again because I saw people talking about that on Discord. We're now moving into things I saw people talking about on Discord relating to this dev diary, which came out on Tuesday, 2 days ago. So I think somebody noticed, his name is Shipped. They noticed that there's a thing here that looks like mounts for the other options here. Like there's a beetle mount, an exotic beetle mount, and then maybe an umbral mount on the right side. They also notice that there's probably something here to do with necromancy. I don't know. It looks like necromancy to me. Purple makes sense, right? And undead is not like the cold affinity. It's the cold version of that affinity. It's more like the undead version of shadow. There are a few modifiers that have not been shown yet. They were saying something about how this one seems like it'd be Lilith. Maybe this is Marauders. This looks like some kind of maybe Primal, or maybe it's got something to do with these guys actually. The presence, not the presence, the Scourge, the Toll of Seasons, I think is what they were calling it. And there's 5 of these, which is interesting because there's, obviously 4 seasons. So I wonder which one is the one that doesn't quite fit into. I think I went through the list of summer fairies, autumn fairies, winter fairies, and I don't remember there being an order affinity one. So I guess there's an order affinity Scourge. Oh man, I'm so curious now. Manifest Tentacle may be something that we haven't actually seen, so I think somebody got a screenshot of it on Discord. where they show that it basically creates a tentacle in the target hex. There was something in here. This must have also been in the dev diary, right? Where they got pictures of some of the skills. It could have been from one of the previous streams, but I don't remember seeing Master Summoner or Conjure Astral Ward. Who knows? Maybe I did. I talked about it. It's just been a whole week and I forgot. What else can we say about this? Might variations, hero skill might be not on the list. So this is talking about what you can get through dwellings. Not too sure what they mean by that. I forget why I put that there in the first place. Discord says they think Umbral demons are mostly coming from the Rally of the Lieges. Oh, that must have been tied to this. This will be, yeah, include recruit Umbral demons into your retinue. And these are just some pictures I got from the end of the stream. So yeah, you probably recognize one of these. I think I'm going to use one of them for the thumbnail. But yeah, going back to our art dev diary, this is pretty cool. There's a lot actually in here. As you can see, people picked out a few interesting things, but just want to take a quick look at it briefly before we move on. This is what the different sovereigns look like. They're not supposed to be all tentacled creatures. Some of them are supposed to be more like butterfly and fae like. So they incorporated different themes. I know there's like mummies and other versions. Yeah, this is the one with the the butterfly looking wings. And yeah, I think that they've got some nice variety and for you to choose between when you get to creating the hero. At least that's what it looks like right now. There's this rock version. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. There's like you've got like eyes all over the body in random places and no eye on the head. It's fun stuff. But yeah, let's move on to what else they have in here. The starting relics look phenomenal. I do love them a lot. The dodecahedron. I can say that word. It's a big word. Um, they kind of try to push their visual effects with this one. This moves a lot. No, I hadn't actually really noticed that or thought about it. That's probably a lot more challenging to do than just a simple orb moving up and down. As they level up, they get bigger. That's really interesting and easy to miss. So yeah, they scale up and they get some different effects around them as well as a crown. So they're going to have something like this shining over their head based off of their affinity, I believe is what this is saying, or maybe it may be based off of the signature skills that you choose, because that's how it worked with the dragons. I believe a magic active leader wouldn't be anything without their skills. Here are a few examples of what it looks like. Yeah, these are pretty pretty explosive looking. The Umbral Abyss is something that we've obviously seen a bit. They mentioned that it's like what they had in Shadow Magic, but they change it to Abyss because Shadow is an affinity in Age of Wonders 4, and now they've got these floating islands, which is really neat. It's impassable terrain that you have to navigate carefully in order to explore properly. They I think talk about how there's a lot of variation. They've rotated a little bit so that it just makes the world feel like it's not the same thing you've seen before. There are bats. Wait, there's bats? Eyeball bats. Is that an eyeball bat? Oh, wow. Maybe that should have been my thumbnail. Zoom in on that. It's phenomenal. That reminds me of like the skeleton bat thing in Zelda. We got new locations, and I think they changed some of the old locations to look more visually entertaining. I mean, that's pretty cool. I can't imagine how long it took to make these books look as neat as they do here. They're probably inspired by some other art, some other things. Maybe previous Age of Wonders games, actually. The more I think about it, that makes sense. Is that an ethereal crystal? That's pretty cool. I like that. Floating rocks near a monolith node is, yeah, it's kind of eerie and creepy. That's definitely a theme I've seen in other sci-fi or eldritchy type things before. The visit sites change when you go there. This is what it looks like before you go here. This is what it looks like after. That's really cool. I love that detail, and it's important when you're moving across the map that you can see this clearly from far away, because that's an important decision. The Umbral Illuminati is pretty funny. Wonder what happens when you go there. Indeed, indeed, it looks pretty cool. Now this location is supposed to be something that looks like they're fighting against the darkness. Yeah, no, I get that vibe. It's like the Order Affinity candles and bright lights. Um, Eldritch Dwelling looks phenomenal. I think they mentioned that it's kind of inspired by kir'ko. I love that they talk a little bit about my kir'ko. They weren't the main faction I played, but I find that it's really interesting that there's a little bit of overlap with the insectoid form and the kir'ko and the hive mindness of them both, of both those factions. So underneath here, they say a little bit more about what it's like when you meet them. Um, and this is just some of the wildlife or vegetation that's on the layer. It kind of moves and wiggles, but in a weird, like ethereal way. They've got some obsidian, turning some of the old locations into something darker and more menacing. Um, what else can I say here? I feel like we've kind of covered it. Oh yeah, they took the root and turned it into tentacles. That was something they were pretty proud of. This is them showing off something that I don't think a lot of people will find interesting, but for those who do, that's probably really cool. And like they're like, oh, that's how you do it. It's behind the scenes, right? And after here, we have something about 90% of the ground being made of these textures. Yeah, they look pretty weird. They look like something you wouldn't see out in the real world. Um, your forms, siren, insectoid. Yeah, they talked about how at one point sirens started to look more aquatic or fish-like because they didn't want to just redo elf. They'd already put elves into the game, so uh, it shifted over time. But they had this that turned into more human-like or humanoid forms or humanoid hair, which is neat. I feel like it'd be kind of cool to actually have these squid features in the same list of things you can make, but who knows, maybe they're going to save the aquatic stuff for something in the future eventually. I think they say something about pointy ears. They gave them pointy ears and made it so they're a little bit more colorful and expressive, right? Because they kind of look bland before they put expressions on them. And I think they're saying that they put expressions on things like the giants as well as the trolls just to make it so that they're a little bit more interesting to look at. And I don't remember it looking like this. This is, yeah, a much better, far bigger improvement. All right, here's where they really talk about the insectoids. Apparently, they're shadow magic. Then they were referenced in Planetfall, and this is a nod to them. They're not supposed to be a direct um, call back to, or at least that's what they seem to be indicating here. I think we'll probably find out more about that pretty soon, right? Like people are going to get to play around these story realms, and I feel like if they're the kir'ko are from Age of Wonders, that's probably going to get addressed in the story realms. They're saying, I wonder what's happening here. Oh, this might be my thumbnail. I might need to switch that out because that's a really nice image. I like these images here a lot. New events. Yeah, we saw the sign of a huntress. They have some cool animations that go above. Yeah, this is cool. I don't think we've seen this location. We could try and see if there's anything in the patch notes about the Scourge because I think that might be part of the free update. It could be that as part of the Eldritch stuff, but it doesn't seem very Eldritchy, so I don't know. The wildlife, the units, they look phenomenal. The splinterlings, they went through a lot of different variations to try and make the placement and scale look right. Yeah, I think it looks really cool. And there's a reference to Age of Wonders Planetfall. This is the overseer? No, not the overseer, the subjugator, I want to say. The guy who sits in the floating chair and controls people, resets their actions. It's really good. Somebody said something about this reminding them of something from another game. I don't recognize it. It's cool. It's pretty menacing too. There's a lot of icons, like a lot of icons in here that people pulled apart. I think this is where the player pulled out the Umbral mount thing. And then what else can we say here? These look cool. These are the new tomes. Pretty fun. I could use that as my thumbnail. Books are fun. Everybody likes them, right? And then yeah, there's like art thing by the community person. We don't need to look at that right now. So yes, I would like to go through here and see if there's anything in here about adding +1 rank. Recruit Battle Mage, Academy of Potential. Ooh, yeah, so that seems pretty good. So maybe I'll do +1 rank because that's a pretty common way for them to write it, right? +1 rank. There's 9 places in this document that are going to give you that. Now grants Magic Origin units +1 rank, all of them, when you get Wizard's Tower level 2. Oh, I don't remember hearing them talk about that at all. The Apex will make it so the tier 1 and 2 Magic Origin units will also get another +1 rank when they start. So that'll make it easier to evolve the ones that do, but I don't think that you're able to immediately evolve anything um, that you just summon or build because that would be kind of silly. It'd be like you just save money on the production or summoning, but you get a better unit. And then we have stuff in here about mage's guild, blacksmith, and armory. I remember seeing images about this at one point. I've covered this on the channel before. AI difficulty, so they get +1 rank for all units to +1 rank to just tier 1 and tier 2 on the hard difficulty, and on a very hard, they're gonna add +1 rank to the tier 4s and 5s, as well as a bunch of stuff for the lower tier units. Yeah, I don't think I want to be playing on very hard / brutal difficulty now. That seems like it's gonna be a bit of a slog. Just like you're gonna be fighting units that are overpowered, way stronger than they usually would be, or than what they used to be. And I think, yeah, that's covering all of the ranks. What we wanted to look up? We wanted to see if they had the toll of seasons, maybe. No, I think that might be not part of the mystic thing here. Yeah, so why don't we just take a minute to go through this quickly? I have a pretty busy day ahead of me, so I'm not going to go through everything that's here, but I do think it's worth taking a minute to see what they took a second to highlight at the top. At the very least, multiplayer takeover is enabled, and multiplayer players are able to step in and take over AI-controlled units in manual combat against other players. Wait a minute. What? Multiple players to take over. The system picks one at random. This is really good. This is going to be phenomenal for play by email. No longer can people just farm the map without other people. Well, no, because play by emails they don't want to bother with every little fight being a manual fight between players. That'll take forever. Ah, man, this is interesting. I don't think they've talked about this. Multiplayer takeover should probably be in the title of um, my video here. Culture rework. Mystic is different. We heard about this. We've seen this. This is all stuff that's been covered pretty extensively in the previous streams. Improvement to unit viability. Yeah, they're trying to make the lower tier units last longer. A lot of people are concerned that the higher tier units won't be as good. But there's also increased costs to getting your Wizard's Tower Apex and your level 2 Wizard's Tower and your level 1 Wizard's Tower. I feel like that will make it so people are more likely to focus on their units versus infrastructure in their cities, and that seems like something that will make the early game more interesting. A lot of time people will go very lean and just have one stack when somebody else could have 3 stacks of units and they could just bulldoze them if they were to attack. But going around and farming the map and trying to build up power that way is and keeping it exactly what you need. No extra like nonsense units was a very efficient way to do it, but that may be very different now. Now you may just need to have a lot of units to keep them from dying and to make sure that you're putting the experience on the units early enough to go use them against other players. Yeah, a lot of people were saying that the ability to recover is going to be trickier because of this unit viability changes to experience specifically. Units now require less experience to reach legendary rank when they're evolving. Yeah, that's neat. Um, so for the most part, experience like thresholds haven't changed, but what you get has changed. There's a little bit of stuff for draft buildings here. Recruiting costs through Rally of the Lieges has increased. Tier 2s are now this much, tier 3s are this much, tier 4s are this much, and tier 5s are this much, which is quite a range. That's a wild range because um, I've seen tier 4s actually cost as much as tier 3 units, like exactly 105. I hope they switch the numbers around so that tier 4s don't cost as little as some tier 3s. And I've seen some tier 3s cost like almost twice what a tier 4 costs. I think the white wolf or something like that was only 105 gold for one reason or another. That's something that I'd be really interested to see if they fixed when they went to the Rally of Lieges, because that sounds like something they looked at. Pantheon updates. It gives you more experience for things. There's probably some more things you can get some new Eldritch themed loadouts. Quality of life is in here. Item forge blueprints they haven't talked about at all. Any item you forge during the session is remembered and can be easily accessed to forge again as long as you have the required materials and essence. It only applies to the current session. I thought blueprints were things you found on the map. Oh, okay. Ruler filters neat. Animation speed is good. They reworked it so you can select default animation individually for the world map and combat. So yeah, that's good. I didn't know they're actually tied together. I hadn't noticed that. Interface loadouts. Yeah, AI is supposed to be better. They have changed the way they split stacks of units, and They changed how Boon of the Wolf works, which I think might be the Primal Wolf, or maybe it's like Pack Hunter. I'm not entirely sure what that's referring to. We did talk a little bit about changes to difficulty. Combat AI is supposed to be better, less likely to cause collateral damage to its own use with AoE. Yes, yes, that's something I've been waiting for a long time. Um, environmental art, yeah, we did a whole dev diary in art. We don't need to talk about that. Or audio combat is now changed so archers can destroy obstacles that have a flimsy tag. Oh, cool. Flying units that land when moving will now get wet when moving over wet water markers. Oh, this is something we saw a lot in the skirmishes because I was playing as the crocodile primal that had a lot of wet tags. So yeah, flying units should get wet when they land and are not moving. That's going to mean clicking your path through is actually going to be a little bit trickier, and going into the water might make it so you can't undo your turn and pick a better place to go. All units die, but your ally wins. You will now be considered for a victory instead of defeat. That's probably important for things like resurgence. Buff static charge, 30% apply electrified to enemies, and debuffed insanity to now prefer allies. I think that's actually buffed. That makes insanity better. So when you apply it to an enemy, it now attacks the units that you would prefer it to attack. Uh, yeah, it's funny. It's listed as a debuff. Cold Weak is different. Now applies to all dark non-scout units. Makes sense. They were a culture that I think a lot of people enjoyed thematically and enjoyed getting the knowledge out of, but they weren't a big fan of its viability with its units. I don't think a lot of people thought that their Dark was doing what it was supposed to. Same with Reaver. The mage locks are now very different. They changed to a full action. They changed their full action shot to a single action shot, and the base accuracy is now. Wait, oh, I thought it was going to be lower than 60%. They said it was really inaccurate. I guess, yeah, that's like 3 stacks of marked will get you back up to the normal shot. Yeah, no, if you give yourself other sources of accuracy, this guy now can just run around and use a single action attack um, with a few other sources of marked, or, I think there's other things. I don't think precision training will give you the accuracy, but there's other ways to get there, like a skill that you take at the very beginning on your species or the faction you're playing. Take aim is going to give you a single action continue, which basically turns it into the full action if you want to stand still and basically use it the way it used to work. Power cannon now has piercing and breaching. It still seems like it can only do it every other turn, so I don't know if people are actually going to consider using this. I think the cannon needs some kind of, I don't know, ability to deal with units that are directly in front of it, or a secondary attack to give it something to do when it's waiting for its primary attack to come online, because it's not strong enough. I mean, I guess you could make the cannon's primary attack just really, really strong, but that seems a little silly. Dragoons are no longer have a cooldown on their harrying shot. Wait, come on, no. they put distracted on people. It now has breaching. That's gonna be really good. Okay, Reavers may have just elevated themselves to a lot better. With this with this change and this change, I don't see them being unpopular as they used to be. Primal's different. Improved generation of spirit dens. Oh, cool. Um, they changed the spirit tracker, spirit finder increases sensing range to help increase those to find the dens. Animus summon primal spirit can now only be used once per battle. No, I did it. I ruined my primal strategy. I did it too much. uh, we have to finish the game now. That's my least favorite change. Change it back, please. Diplomacy is a little bit changed with vassalage. Bounties are different, and what else is in there? There's economy things. Outposts are different. Gold bonuses from side each place no longer apply. Oh man, this thing about primals has got me. I'm pretty bummed about that. Chaos skill impressment is something I'm not familiar with. Military injuring no longer grants a free work camp, but instead reduces the turn duration of outposts by 1 turn. Ahaha! Yes, nerf materium. It needed that actually. It's too much of an obvious pick for a lot of players, and I think this is going to ruin some kind of cheesy strategies that a lot of people are using just to get around the map and clear it just before anyone else can. because your build is a little broken. Career soldiers makes it so they get more XP. Factions are different with mounted masters. Reduce costs from 2 to 1. Ooh, that's I hadn't noticed that. I hadn't seen that in the streams. Eagle mounts is reduced from 4 to 3. That I had noticed. I had seen that. And elephant mounts are large targets. Mammoth mounts are large targets. Yes, I love this. This makes sense. I said when I saw that they weren't large targets, I don't get this. They're giant units. They're good units. They should maybe have some counters. um Maybe large target doesn't need to be plus 40% damage though, if that's the case. It's a lot. I think those countering strategies, they're pretty powerful, maybe a little too powerful. Change some pre-made heroes. We got some other things about heroes. Heroes defeated on world map but not properly followed to heroes defeated flow, adding them to the prisoner crypt. Cool. So your skills have changed a little bit here. Item forge has changed a little bit here. Yeah, I think I gotta wrap up this video here so that we can post it soon. But yeah, like in general, there's a lot here. It's looking super cool, and I'm super excited to get to play around with it. I'll see you around. Have a good one.